After the final edit of your mini documentary has been approved by the teacher, it needs to be shared with the world. Within your Google Drive News Project folder, create a new folder and name it Distribution. So hold the Control key and press the E key on your keyboard, then type Distribution for the new folder. Next, select the approved version of your news story edit and place it in your distribution folder. So I'm going to click on this and just drag it into the distribution folder. Now I can open the distribution folder to make sure. One way to get people to see your story is to include it in an episode of Logan Live, the student-produced newscast. During a regular school year, Logan Live appears most school days just before the start of second period. Since the length of each show is limited, there is not enough time to show a complete mini documentary. However, there is time to introduce the audience to the story by showing an excerpt from it. To create an excerpt of your mini documentary, open the approved final edit and weave video. In this example, it's Education Changes. Once it's open, go to the hamburger menu at the top left corner and click on it. Choose the Save As option. Keep the name the same, but add at the end in all caps, Excerpt, and then click OK. You now have a copy of your project that you can use to pull a piece that is less than 60 seconds long. Watch through your timeline and find a section that you think is the most interesting. The section you choose should be at least 30 seconds long, but no longer than 60 seconds. Now, I've looked at mine before, and I've decided that I'm not going to use the very beginning of the story, so I'm going to select these pieces, which includes my interviews and my B-roll footage. And after I've selected them, I'll press backspace to delete them. And I'll get rid of this opening part here too. And now notice I'm keeping the lower third titles because I'm going to need those later. But right now I've decided to use this section here. So this is a piece that I have. With those selected, I'm going to drag them all the way to the beginning of the timeline. Now I notice that the overall length is going to be more than a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate a couple of pieces. And actually, I've already watched through this. So I'm going to get rid of this one soundbite here and then move all of these over. So I'll slide these over to here. Oops, it won't let me go. So let me get these names out of the way here first. And now I can grab these pieces and slide them over. And I've got one last soundbite here to slide over. So I can watch through this, and if I like the way it plays, then I will go ahead and add graphics. But notice now that I've cut things out, I'm at 48 seconds and 17 frames. That is less than a minute, actually almost 49 seconds, so I'm in good shape. Now, if I didn't want to use the two sections back to back, I could have gone ahead and used a section later on. But whatever you pull for your excerpt, don't rearrange any of the sound bites or the reporter track. Don't change the order they appear. Just move sections and maybe eliminate a piece here and there, but keep them in the original order you had them from the original story. So once I have the pieces I want to use, I can eliminate all the rest, but I'm going to keep the reporter stand-up to show you what an option will be. So I've selected everything else I'm not using. I've still got this reporter stand-up and the title with it. So I'll just drag these a little bit closer for me along the timeline. Now let's see if I can get them to move here. There we go. I'll move it up here. But with this piece here, now that I've got it edited, I can see that I'm at about 49 seconds. So I'm under 60 seconds, no longer than 60 seconds, but I am longer than 30 seconds. And so you want to make sure you play back the piece you have, make sure it sounds good. I've done that already and I know it sounds good. So now I need to make sure I can identify everybody as they appear. So I need to, I moved some of these a little bit too far over. So let's go back here. Got to make sure my B-roll is covering my reporter track. All right, so I have everything where it should be here. Now I'm just going to take the name. This first person here is Otto, so I'm going to use him. The next one I have is Sue Render. So I'm going to make sure I put her name on there. I'm sorry, this is Anita Job. That's right, this is Anita Job. Next I have Surrender. And finally, remember, this is as if I'm in the story as a teacher, so the first time the teacher shows up is here. So remember, the first time that anybody shows up in your excerpt, that's when their name will come up on the screen. Now, if you decide you want to include your sign-off as part of it too, you could go ahead and put that there and move your title graphic so that it shows up. Just make sure that the overall length of your story is less than a minute, no longer than a minute, and this still is. So remember here, I'm pretending that I'm actually Jim Shoes, the student doing this. All right, once you have your excerpt all ready to go through the finish step. So click the finish button. Make sure you've chosen HD for the quality. Make sure the name is correct, and then click the option to download it. Once you've chosen that option, click the export button. It might take a while for it to export. Once your excerpt video has been exported from WeVideo, click the link and then choose the download button. Make sure you've got the HD resolution selected, then click download. Navigate to your news project folder and open the distribution folder. Make sure the name is correct of the file and ends with the .mp4 extension. So it should be the same name as the name of your original story, except you've added excerpt. With everything correct, hit the save button. Navigate to your distribution folder and double-click the file. Play it through and make sure it's correct. If anything is wrong, go back to WeVideo and make the corrections. In addition to the full version of your story in the MP4 format and an excerpt in the MP4 format, you need to create some items to help promote the viewership of your project. Create a new Google Doc using the same naming format you've used before. In this case, it's news, education changes. Remember, the reporter is supposed to be Jim Shoes. In this case, the document is called Promotion. In the document, type these items. Title will be the title of your story, the name. In this case, it's Education Changes. Next is the credit for your story. In this case, it's produced by Jim Shoes. So yours would be produced by, and then your name. Next, it's the anchor lead-in. Write something that can be used by the anchor to introduce your story. Make sure it doesn't include anything you say as part of your story, especially at the beginning of your story. Here's an example. The COVID-19 pandemic affected our lives in many ways, including how we were able to learn. Here's Jim with one story. Next, you want to describe what the experience was like for you to create your story. Write 1 or 2 sentences. Include something that maybe was a challenge and how you overcame it, and something that you liked about the process. Here's one example. Having to interview people remotely was a challenge, but I was able to learn the technology and the people I interviewed cooperated. I enjoyed recording my reporter track and completing the story edit. Now, as you create your promotional copy, you don't need to include these titles here, as long as you understand what the copy should include. So if you don't want to put those in there, just make sure you have the 4 elements: the story title, your credit, the anchor lead-in, and what your experience was like. Once your promotion document is ready, make sure you move it into your distribution folder. So go to the File menu, choose Move, navigate to your Google Drive project folder, and open the distribution folder. And then choose Move here. Now that you have your promotion document, your excerpt recording, and the final edit of your story, you have one more item to create, and that's a photo to be used to promote your video. So double-click on your story video to open it. Search through the B-roll and find something that best represents your story. In my case, I think it's going to be the graphic I created. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. I think it's going to be this graphic. So I'm going to click on the maximize button here to make sure it's full screen. Then on my keyboard, I'm going to hold down the control key and press the screen capture button. Now I'm going to navigate to my files. When I go to the downloads folder, I have a screenshot. And if I press the space bar, I'll see that that's the screenshot I just captured. So that's what I need to turn into a still image using photopea.com. So I'm going to visit photopea.com, choose Open from Computer, click on the file in my Downloads folder and click Open. Now I'm going to go to the File menu, New, choose Screen, HD, 1280 by 720, and then click Create. Now I'll go back to the screenshot, use Control-A to select it all, Control-C to copy it, click on my New Project tab, and use Control-V to paste it. Now I need to go ahead and use the Edit menu, Free Transform, make sure that I have the aspect ratio locked, and then enter 50% for the width. And now I can reposition this graphic to fill the frame. So I'm going to pull the corner here and bring the width out. Well, actually, if I hold Shift, it'll keep the shape right. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that correct. And then maybe just slide it up a bit. So now that I like that, I can go ahead and hit Enter. Then I can go to the File menu, choose Export As. In this case, I'll choose JPEG. Make sure the quality is set to 1280 by 720. We'll bring it all the way up to 100% quality, and then click the Save button. I'm going to navigate to my News Distribution folder and give it the name News Education Changes Gym Shoes Photo, and click Save. And now I'll review everything in my distribution folder. I have the photo, I have the promotional Google Doc, I'll have the excerpt version of my video, and I'll have the complete version of my story. With all of those correct, send the link to your distribution folder in an email message to get approved by the teacher. Make sure you've shared the folder.